all the SIMs up there has been processing logs, what we call the events, and that's mean getting the information from a Active Directory server or a Blue Coat server or a Unix or Windows system or an application, and sending and processing and correlating all those and making good determination from the security standpoint. QRadar actually started the other way around. QRadar was a network anomaly behavior detection tool, and then we added logs into it. And what's the value of those flows? First, a definition. Network flows, which are a subset of the flows I'll be talking today, are layer 4 type of information: port, protocol, byte count, class of service, and things that you can derive by either getting information from your router. That's one source of network flows, or by actually defining a flow collector in QRadar and getting a tap or a monitor port where we can actually get all that information. It's also called a spam type of connection. So anyway, you get QRadar, you provide the network information, and what can you do with it? So here's a sample of the flows that I have on this demo system, and you get, source IP, destination IPs, with the port and the destination port, the byte count, very importantly, the protocol, TCP or UDP, and actually the application talking on that protocol. And one of the things that you can do with it is actually asset discovery. So when we set QRadar up, we don't have to tell it, oh, these are my DNS servers, these are my FTP servers, and no. QRadar can do a passive listening to all that flow data and see, well, that application talking on this port, that looks like an FTP server. And so when you go here into server discovery, basically you can specify, well, I'm going to look, for example, on DNS server. I know I have one in this demo system. And it says, well, for DNS server, they talk on port 53. You can actually alter that in case that you have use different protocols. You can select which section of the network you want it to look for it, if you don't want to search it on all, and you actually perform your discovery. So if the value of this is not only save you a tremendous amount of time, but if somebody launches, let's say, an FTP server on a critical PCI machine that you have, and without telling you, as soon as that protocol begins to be in use and you cannot hide from it, QRadar is going to detect such a new server, and it can notify you, it can tell you about it. And it better do so, because if somebody launches an FTP server, for example, without telling you, chances are that that machine, that server, is full of vulnerabilities that you may want to take an action upon. But to show you better what is it that you can do with those networks, I think that the best way is actually to show you all the search options that we have. So I'm going to go here on the search and on the network side, and of course you can look for source or destination IP individually, or destination source. You can specify that's kind of no big deal. Let me scroll down so you can see the actions in here. But the good stuff is going to be the unique stuff, let's say, is going to be showing towards the end, or what I want to emphasize in the flow direction. A couple of things that can be very unique, but the ones that I like typically the most are when you start going beyond the layer 4, which is layer 7. So QRadar does what is called QFlows, which is for every packet we receive, we pick into the payload of the packet, and we can search for any information that is in it. And I'll show you some concrete examples of it, either by putting the plain text, or if you see here, by putting a regular expression. So we go beyond the layer 4, we go to the layer 7. So when we talk about flows, I mean, it's really far more than just layer 4 traffic. But let's do some interesting searches. So I'm selecting here application, and I can say equal or does not equal, or any of those conditions. But when I look in here, Notice all the things that I can do. Let's say that I'm looking for peer-to-peer type of traffic, the kind of BitTorrent. So I can scroll down, and I'm scrolling slowly so you can actually see some of the things that I can look upon, and I can say either any P2P, or I'm interested just in BitTorrent alone, and actually add that filter and perform the search, and bang, I can specify the time range where I'm looking for those, and it's going to find any application that is using that particular traffic. But let's say that I'm looking for who is using Go to My PC, you know, in my network. So that probably will be here on remote access protocol, and here are all the things that that you don't have to worry about. And I can select Go to My PC, and I can add that filter. You can add all these conditions, and you get the actual results of it, and you can remove the one that you are not interested. You can save these searches. You can use these searches as part of your offenses. I mean, a lot of good stuff that you can do, and I'll show you some more things that you can do with all that flow data. Again, let's see let's say that I'm interested in some social media monitoring. So I can go here on the HTTP web, and let's say that I'm interested in Facebook, and I'm interested in just plain text traffic on meaning not encrypted traffic on Facebook, for example. You can search for that. I mean, on all that, you cannot get that from the logs alone. You get that by having that the layer 4 and even layer 7 type of information that QRadar so well collects. So let's say that I want to do a search for a particular word in the payload of all my network traffic. So I'm going to specify on the timing, I'm going to say the last 12 hours. And on the condition that I'm going to be looking here for is actual content of the payload. So I scroll down here all the way to almost to the bottom here, and look at the condition where I can put the plain text that I'm looking for. So this is the condition source payload contains, and I'm looking for a particular word. Cydia is the name of a ROC store for Android devices that people may use. So let's say I want to search for anywhere on the payload on my network for the last 12 hours. Where is the word Cydia as part of the payload? Again, that's something that layer 4 traffic won't be able to find for you, and nor of course not logs. And here I find quite a bit of incidents that shows that. And this one in particular is the one here that has the red dot. That means that these have contributed to offenses. And that's the key, because some technologies out there emulating QRadar has begun to process flows, but you cannot take actions on it. In QRadar, if you find something, you can take an action and fire an offense and notify people to take whatever actions you want. So if we go and actually, whenever you see in QRadar this C between parentheses, that means that there has been some content that has been detected on the actual payload. And if we go here to this particular flow, we actually see here the word Cydia embedded in all that traffic. This is how you can look for credit card numbers, either by regex or you can look for anything that is on the first 64 byte of the payload, and you can modify that 64 bytes search limit. You will be able to get it as part of your flows. And you can do the same with all the other events that you found in here. And in fact, if you want to actually go to that particular offense that is listed in there, you can actually display the rule that I have, as I have done before many times. And you see that is a rule that I placed to detect when people use their mobile device to go to this Cydia store. That most likely indicates the fact that that phone has been jailbroken. So this is part of my wireless network. It's using port 53. That's a DNS lookup for precisely looking for a Cydia server, and contains the word Cydia. And we see all those instances that were only possible by looking at the flows. Let's go into the offense tab and see other offenses that had fire in here, so we can see the value of detecting those type of flows. So let's take a look at this one. DNC host port scan detected by foreign host. So we see that that's one event, and actually 26 flows is coming from China. And to see why this offense actually fire, let's look at the rule for it, and we can actually understand why did it trigger. Well, network definition, this is something on my DMC, so somebody's scanning my DMC, and I define my network topology, network hierarchy, specify what are my DNS machines. Is either remote to local or remote to remote, and is a recon event. That's typically what QRadar, you don't have to tell it. It knows how to, when an application is actually knocking on multiple ports, that's typically one of the many things that is triggered as a recon. It's a suspicious event, and again, these are building blocks that QRadar knows about it and keeps and maintains. And the source IP with the same source IP five times into 25 destination port within a minute, and that's typically another way of saying that that's an active scan actually going. And again, you're not going to get this from the logs, you get it from the flows, and you get offenses firing and telling you that somebody is scanning your DMC. Let's look at another offense here. Let's take a look at this one. Actually, we see that this is only 154 event and 18,000 flows. Wow. We can actually display the rule as we did before, so we can understand. Let's take a look at this one, for example. I'm not going to show all the rules, but let's actually just double click on that one and see that, you know, this is the counting, the source host greater than 100 of those, that's remote to remote. But notice here, I'm specifically looking for that particular IP protocol. Again, you don't get that from the logs. That's a deep flow that can not only detect ports and bytes, but also the protocol being actually used. And QRadar is filled with all those logic. I'm here on the rules sections, and I'm going to look for UBA, the new free addition that QRadar has. And let's look at some of these rules. Let's take, for example, this one, user behavior session anomaly by destination. And notice that, you know, we can see that, look at that. Unique count destination over the last 24 hours, at least 200% different from the average value over the last 4 weeks. So here's the tool automatically creating that baseline for you, so you don't have to, and it finds that, you know, the pattern where 200% the difference should allow you, should you use that rule, to fire a particular offense. I'm here on the application exchange, and in here there's a package that is the VMware component. What am I bringing this up to is because there's another type of flows. What happened within the hypervisor of the actual VMware infrastructure. And what happened, you know, how do you get information from all those vCenter, vCloud, vShield components? Well, there's a package for that. And so QRadar also has the capability of not missing anything that is happening to the hypervisor. It has interfaces with the VMware APIs to collect that logs and flows and being able to inform you as well as it does on the physical network as well. Where the story gets beautiful is when you get not only flows and all this type, but also logs and flows working together to detect situations as this one. When you have a particular machine that has been seen connecting to a command and control botnet. And how do we determine that that's the case? Again, let's display the actual rules. And we see all these actual rules firing, you know, telling you that logs and flows are indicating with certainty that this machine has been talking to a command and control botnet. We can, for example, look at the flows here. And if we look at the first, just for looking at one in particular of the flows, actually we see that in the payload there is definitely, this is the type of conversation that happens between botnet. Again, logs and flows, all the type of flows, in order to be able to find and act upon all the intelligence that you can derive from your network.